morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. I greet you live from wherever you are in the world. And no, I'm not in Washington, D.C. I'm in North Carolina, the 8th largest state in the United States of America. I'm honored to be here today. I've opened up the show, be here for a few minutes. I'm not feeling that well today, so I need to take a little rest. But wanted to just open up today's show. We are on this show always talking about an increasingly turbulent world, politically, economically. And speaking of turbulence on Mother Earth, as Taiwan has witnessed a 7.4 on the Richter scale magnitude earthquake. No tsunamis, but a very devastating earthquake for Taiwan. President Biden is upset about aid workers being killed in Gaza. And also NATO is considering a $100 billion aid package to Ukraine. All of this occurring while President Donald Trump is getting close to speaking at the Republican convention and positioning himself as the next president of the United States, although this week he posted a $175 billion bond to get him out of a little legal trouble. And Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, once again visiting North Carolina, the 12th time she's visited in the last couple months. This is actually the 4th or 5th visit just in the last 8 weeks. And the Vice President is going to be talking about climate change with Environmental Secretary and Administrator Michael Regan in Charlotte. I'm scheduled to meet with her briefly, but I may have to take a pass because I don't feel like driving all the way to Charlotte. With that being said, it's going to be an exciting show today as we talk about these issues and others. And we want to encourage you to send us your ideas of topics you would like us to consider on the show. We want to have a respectful, healthy dialogue as we continue to make the world a better place to live. Lots to talk about. I will be back on World Politics next Tuesday, and looking forward to also bringing these issues politically. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mark Lee in. And
we're glad to be here. We've also got Rick with us. I did have a question for you before you leave and everything, because I was reading the Independent and all along those lines, and Rick may have some thoughts around this as well. But apparently last week, speaking of people that decided to go on long trips, Valerie Fouché, who is a congressperson from this area, went to Israel and met with both the Israel president as well as Netanyahu, and also some leader or two from the Palestinian front. And apparently this was after receiving a significant donation from AIPAC and everything along those lines. So even though she had originally put out a proclamation and signed a proclamation for a ceasefire in that particular region, she did go meet with folks and was saying how important diplomacy was in the terms of trying to solve this conflict in Israel and everything. So I just didn't know.
I don't know. Well, I was with the Congresswoman just a few days ago at a Holy event, and I forgot to close out with Holy, which is, there are a lot of festivals. It's the Festival of Colors, and of course we didn't dazzle with colors. It symbolizes renewal, spring, rebirth, and But I was aware of the fact that she's been a little bit more of a diplomat. I think the Congresswoman is a more of a diplomatic person. I've always thought a lot of her. I think she's very level-headed. Doesn't really get too far ahead of things, but a good, reasonable representation for the 4th Congressional, which next year will be comprising much of Morrisville, which is why she was invited to speak at the Holy event. But with that being said, Mark, I can tell you that I have been hearing some rumors that Nida Alam might be considering the 4th again, either in this cycle. And I can tell you that if she does seek the nomination either against Fouché or if Fouché ever retires, I can assure you that the Israeli Jewish Pact will spend whatever it takes to defeat her. And I think that she's really got a target on her head from that community. So I do not believe that she's by being so far aggressive on that issue, I think it will be very difficult for her to win that seat.
I hear what you're saying, but I actually saw Nida Alam on this past weekend. I saw her on Saturday because at the Hayti Heritage Center was a gardening symposium, and she actually gave a proclamation to a lady that is involved in gardening that is 111 years old. That's right. You heard me correctly. She's 111 years old. So they gave it to, I believe her name is Catherine Fennell and everything, but she is 111 and still very active in her gardening community. So I believe she was there with her daughter and everything. But definitely that was one of the proclamations that they gave, as well as a proclamation just about gardening in general. So that was this past Saturday that took place, and I did see her come in to give those.
Well, no, I'm not saying. I mean, that's great, and I think a lot of Netta Alam. I know her family. I'm just saying that I think that a congressional run. I know that's what she wants. She wants to be in Congress. I just don't know if the 4th congressional district is, as progressive a liberal seat to put someone like her in Congress. I mean, I would put Netta Alam in kind of the category of AOC and others that are very progressive. And I just don't. And I look at Valerie Fouché as being a much more moderate solution. And I think that she'll continue to hold that seat. I think if Netta Alam ran against Fouché for Congress, I don't think she can win. But I'm just telling you that the Israeli PAC would spend up to I would say maybe 8 to 10 million, probably.
Yeah, and along those same lines, and I don't know what Rick's thoughts about this are and everything, but that's literally what they said, was that she had received a significant amount of money from the AIPAC before going, and I think it was last week that she went and had this meeting in Israel, but it was reported in the Independent. So if you get the latest copy of the Independent, you can see that is what they were talking about, and how the money sometimes can influence our political decisions and everything. So I think that some people are wondering if the money, because it was a sponsored trip, and I think there were 9 congressmen, if I'm remembering correctly, that went on this trip last week, and Fouché was one of those that went to meet with folks, because they basically Netanyahu was trying to get support for finishing the job, and that was his words, not mine, and everything. So it sounds like he's trying to finish the job of destroying Hamas and all along those lines. But Rick, what's your thoughts around some of this political money that goes into?
I'm Jewish. I'm a cheerleader for Israel, but I'm not a cheerleader for Netanyahu. Netanyahu would prefer Trump be president. Netanyahu is not going to listen to us about how he prosecutes the war. And once the war is over, Netanyahu will probably be kicked out of office. He and his cabinet has a variety of people, but some of his people are super right wing, like nuts that don't care about killing Palestinians regardless of whether they're Hamas or not. And I'm not loving, especially after yesterday, the 7 aid workers killed, not by one stray missile, but by a series of 3 missiles. The first one hits, knocks out a car. The people move to a second car. They hit that second car, and then it's the same thing with the third missile until they're all dead, even with clearly marked cars. And also, even after they called the Israeli army and said, "Here are our coordinates, and here's where we'll be going, what we'll be doing." And they're just the latest in 200 aid workers killed by Israel in this war. And of course, Israel has a just cause in fighting Hamas, because Hamas slaughtered 1,200 Israelis on October 7th. But they're not interested in following any of our requests for being less killy of civilians.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying and everything in that regards. By the way, I have put out a request, because Clem has sent us some other guests before, but apparently there is a very anti-abortion group that is out of Israel that is been sending and seeing some of the folks that lives were saved because they were not aborted now in the Israeli army. And of course, there are some children and women that are pregnant that are needing formula and a number of other things. So Clem supplied us with a guest not that long ago. I think it was a few weeks ago or a month or 2 ago. And he might be bringing us somebody from EFRAT, which I believe is the name of the organization that is very much anti-abortion, but they are also very much pro Israel, because it is an Israeli-based group. So you may be having them come in to speak, because I've already, they reached out to me, so I've reached back out to them.
So like every other religion, Judaism comes in a number of different flavors. And some of the most popular divisions are Reform, which I am, which is, it's like it's a very relaxed version. And then you have Conservative, and then you have Orthodox, and Orthodox comes in various forms. But like a lot of the right wingers are super orthodox, and the people who the settlers on the West Bank who are mean to the Palestinians on the West Bank are ultra right. I mean, it makes the political divisions probably even stronger in Israel because the political divisions are tied to different forms of the religion, and it's a little like, you know, the Christian nationalist of evangelicals in the U.S. are some of these ultra right Orthodox Jews in Israel. They're like the MAGAs over here.
Gotcha. Jay, just really quickly, Sasha had a question for you, and it's based on something that it was in the news when 9/11 took place, that very horrible day many years ago, and all along those lines. But I'm hearing something similar in Russia and everything, and I do know that you have some military experience and everything. So are you surprised when you hear that there were warnings? Because we know that we had heard that there were warnings coming back to Hamas about this attack, and now I'm hearing that Russia had actually got reports of the Muslim attack that would take place on that concert before it took place and everything. So I was just wondering, as one that has military experience, like I said, I do not have that experience. I have family members that do, but I was just wondering, are you ever surprised when we hear stuff? Because I even heard that back in 9/11, back in 2001, that there were a number of people that felt that we were warned ahead of time and that we should have been better prepared. So as a military person, are you ever surprised by this kind of reports?
We still don't know enough about what's happened there. There are several versions of this event, and one of them is that, so it's Islamic organization who did that, probably ISIS, maybe some others, maybe a combination of ISIS and some other Muslim groups. It's one version. Another one that there is a Ukrainian version that probably Ukrainians engineered that and did that. There is another version that FSB did it themselves and provided ISIS as a scapegoat, and actually they needed to start really very serious attacks about Ukraine and Ukrainian infrastructure. There are some horrible things happening in the last 2 days. And there are other versions. I didn't explicitly name all of them, but at least few. So we still don't know really. Now there's the fact that there were warnings from the United States and other Western powers means very little, because they didn't specify when it will happen, where it will happen, and so the fact is that they would say, "Oh, there will be terrorist act." Where terrorist act? When terrorist act? Which way terrorist act? Or so on. So even that version is. Okay, I don't know really what to do with that, really. I mean, because right now the investigation is, at least, I would say, murky, because we don't still understand. They're saying that the cars were going in the direction of Ukraine, and this is just muddy the waters. So listen, my own opinion is, this is, you always have to look who is the side who is getting most of the benefits. Who is the benefactor of this attack? I don't see any benefactor except FSB, former KGB. That's all.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, really quickly, I know that you're still with us and everything. I'm glad you are, Steve. But one thing that I heard about, I'm glad Jacoby joined us, because this is a conversation I thought would be interesting as well, because we sometimes talk about AI, and now they're trying to figure out how to teach AI and whether they should teach AI in colleges. And I know that even Rick has brought this up as well, but there are folks that are trying to figure out how to position it as a course, or whether it should even be taught as a course and everything. And I see that we've got
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the lead on this. I mean, but speaking of AI, I'll be sending everyone a note, but on May 15th, I'm hosting an artificial intelligence summit here in North Carolina with John Chambers, spending an hour with us talking about AI and our future. He ran Cisco, and he's got a lot of experience with AI, particularly now as an investor. But I will say that, yes, I think AI has to be taught in the classroom. I think that there needs to be, I'm working on getting us a guest on World Edition who lives in my neighborhood, actually, named Phaedra Bernidris, who is an IBM executive, but she's written a book called AI and the Rest of Us. And the book's about the ethical implications of AI and kind of the red flags. And I think this is one thing that needs to be taught in the classes. Also, careers, though. There's going to be a lot of new jobs created around AI. And I think teaching our young kids of what those careers are, how does it mix in with healthcare, art, product engineering, design, medical work, lawyering, all financial advisors, all of these will be. And before Rick goes, the joke is, ChatGPT has become my new friend. I would oftentimes when I speak, I'll say, I went to ChatGPT and I had a great answer or great questions I was going to ask, but these are my own questions. Or today, I'm speaking at a Chinese festival at the governor's mansion, and I Googled, I want to wear a Carolina light blue jacket with a white shirt. Would that work well? And ChatGPT came back and said, that's a perfect wear a red tie. So, I'm using it for like how I dress. It can tell you, different things. And so it's amazing how it can be used for us. But of course, we want to be able to think for ourselves. Rick, go ahead.
So right now, AI is pretty dumb. It's a sophisticated form of autofill, where it takes all the thoughts and opinions that have been fed into it, and it just feeds them back to you very fast and with really good grammar. But AI doesn't come up with new ideas yet, but in 5 years, 8 years, it will. So yeah, people should be taught AI. That what's scary about the future isn't Skynet, where AI decides to destroy the world like in Terminator. What's scary is what Cory Doctorow calls centaurs, which are the people who become best at using AI technology will dominate the rest of us. The centaurs, because they're half person, half AI, and because they've gotten really good at exploiting technology. And then there's reverse centaurs, which is not what you want to be, where AI takes you over and you lose your autonomy to AI, which we're not in any danger of yet. But yeah, all of this means that we should be paying quite a bit of attention to AI.
Really
I
quickly,
would like
Scott?
to ask you a question. Most of the students have difficulties to read, write. They don't know math, physics, nothing. How are you going to teach this audience to AI, and what is the purpose of that?
Like I said, a lot of people are thinking that AI, as Rick just said, is such a vital part of our education. But Jacoby probably has a better answer than I do. So Jacoby, go for it.
So, if we think way back, back to the 80s, back in 1980s, TRS-80 came out. The TRS-80 was actually even before that. It was early 80s. So early 80s, late 70s. The TRS-80 came out. TRS-80 was a big machine, big block machine, had a cartridge on the side. When you typed in particular things, you would have what's called a turtle on the screen. The turtle would move forward. You could draw a line. Oh, and it was the coolest thing in the world. People at the time were saying that computers weren't really that important. All you could do with a computer really is just maybe draw a line on the screen. You can't really do much with it. You can't, there's no real use for it. Now we are using that same computer in our hand that's more powerful than any other machine, more powerful than many computers that people are using on their desktops. If we had as many people learning coding at that time as we could have, imagine where we would be, and imagine the control and the things that we could do. So at this moment, AI, there's some amazing things that AI can do at this moment. I've showed you guys some of the videos, how you can make realistic images. Heck, even some of the Trump's campaign is using them to try and some individuals who want Trump to be in office are using AI to put out images of him in areas where he never goes. He's never going to hang out with black people the way that he does in the AI images, in church, in the AI images. So at this moment, because of the rapid pace that AI is moving, because it's been in films that people have seen, it's been in pictures that people have seen, it's been in writings that people have read, it's taking over some jobs already, it's doing a whole bunch of stuff that, one, we're going to have to put controls on it, but two, if people could learn the use of AI and how to control it and how to program for it, to watch for the flaws in videos, then understand that that's an AI video, to understand that's an AI image or that's an AI article. It'd be great at this moment to begin having people learn these things. And with what Sasha said, Sasha's question is very, very valid. It's a very important thing. Kids, a lot of them struggle with reading, writing, and counting. It's a very big struggle. However, again, if we at this moment there are schools are using gamification to teach kids particular things of how to read, write, and count, and it's been documented that it has helped in terms of teaching kids to read, write, and count, even program. So if we could utilize AI's power and AI's tech and actually get the upper levels that can read, write, and count to learn AI and begin to utilize that AI to help teach the younger kids and get everybody involved and comfortable with seeing and understanding what AI is, that could help us out in the future more so than us running from it and just saying that it's not going to be that big thing, because that Terrace 80 again was that thing.
Here's what would really be very helpful. If there would be a two-tier educational system for those who are advanced and they're very good at math and reading and other skills, and you can teach artificial intelligence to this type of students. And there is a second tier, people who can't write or can do the math, the elementary things or so on. They don't need to learn something about AI. If they want to really learn and they're obsessed, they can go to internet and find out enough information on that. But leave them alone. Let them just learn how to do the math and how to.
Hold a second, Nick, before you go there and everything, Sasha, and correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, but there was a time, I know throughout the United States, and you can correct me if I'm wrong too, Rick, and everything, but there was what you just asked for and everything, because as I recall, when I was going to school, meaning grade school in the late 70s and everything, there was a two-tier system. There were those that were tracked for going to college, of which I was one of those and everything, but there were also folks that were taking vocational courses and that were tracked to go into vocational fields. At least that's the way it was in the late 70s and the early 80s. I don't know if it's still that way because I don't have any young kids that I can check with my nephews to see.
Still is, except that the public schools are starved for money, which has reduced like a lot of the vocational training.
Well, when we get to
music went away, drama went away, and some of it, like shop, has gone away in a lot of places.
Yeah, the two-tiered.
When we get to AI, we get to like a lot of buzzwords. In other words, to me, artificial intelligence, everything I've heard is buzzword. Well, I'm going to tell you, one of the companies I work with is doing a practical application of that right now, but I don't call it AI. I would call it AT. In other words, advanced technology. But let me explain what it is in English and then figure out how it happens. Everybody's heard of solar panels, right? They're flat, they lay on top of your roof, and they collect heat from the sun. Here's what they're doing. They're creating a convex panel that collects the heat, but using what you would call artificial intelligence. I would call it advanced technology, but for sales purposes, artificial intelligence. The little convex thing follows the sun. In other words, no matter where you are in the world, it'll track the sun, so it creates more heat into the solar panel, so to speak, that can be used. And for sales purposes, you call it artificial intelligence because it's a GPS tracking mechanism put on your solar panels. However, for sales purpose, you call it artificial intelligence, but in reality, it's just advancements in technology. And so I hear a lot of AI, but I want to hear the meat, not the garbage. AI, and everybody jumps up and down. Talk to me. What exactly are you doing?
All technologies. There is nothing new what you just described, but it's great that somebody found how to actually use it and how actually make it available. Because as a technologically what you describe, I don't see any news or any.
Some authorities on AI are saying we're in an AI bubble similar to the internet bubble at the end of the 20th century.
Oh yeah, the .com. You know, you're right, Rick. In other words, back in the 1990s, I had a client or a potential client come in. He said, "Oh, I'm worth $85 million," and you know, he had a bunch of URLs with .com behind it. Guess where those URLs went? Nowhere. Guess what happened to his $85 million net worth? It was a Trump version of his net worth. He just believed they were worth all.
And I think there's also
in the 1990s.
I think that AI, I think it is a productivity tool that can help us be more productive, but I think it is a little bit hyped. I think that there's a lot of startups today. I'm even in my own career, I'm in the tech sector, advising companies, helping them with their government relations. I've seen a significant uptick in AI startups now, all across the board. But you have to wonder how much of it is hype, how much of it is AI that's been around, that's being how big are the markets? But there's literally $79 billion of venture money going into AI. So I think you're going to start seeing, and a lot of it's fueled by OpenAI, ChatGPT. And I think there's another competitor now to OpenAI that's coming. I can't remember the name, but so, you know, it's almost like the open source movement. But, you know, it's the thing to talk about now on the news, periodicals. Everyone wants to talk about AI. It's the trendy, sexy thing to talk about at conferences. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah.
So AI is people, and it's incredibly expensive. All these AIs that deliver you an essay in 20 seconds cost tens of billions to develop because you have to hire thousands of people to process all the information that goes into the AI. And the crash and the bubble will be when it turns out that you can't recoup, you know, with at least with the current versions of AI, all the billions you've spent in cost savings and profits. Because AI is pretty.
Yeah, just really quickly, speaking of that bubble and everything, I'd love to hear Chetovi's thoughts around this, but because you kind of alluded to it, Nick, and everything, but there are a number of people that are also not just in the AI space, but sometimes they're using AI, because I know some folks involved in this, because there are a number of people that are making money and making a significant amount of money by doing what you just said people used to do, because they are buying URL spaces, holding on to those URL spaces, and then you've got to pay them a significant amount of money to get the URL spaces. I think we ran across that even in some of the names that you were getting for Pod TV and everything. So I just wondered your thoughts, because there are some people even in the AI space that are finding out where those websites are, purchasing those websites at a relatively discounted rate. Matter of fact, I think I've got a couple that are out there and everything. And if somebody wants to buy them, if I can remember what they are up for sale and everything. But that is even using AI as well, because it was an AI person that turned me on to that notion of doing it.
Yeah, just to point out the URL space, that isn't the thing. That was just that was the snake oil that people bought into. The actual tech bubble was actually the internet and its explosion, where they were figuring out how to configure the servers and all the other stuff and getting people online and working that. The technology behind it was the actual bubble, not the actual snake oil that everybody bought into. Hey, you know, it's going to happen if you buy this URL. But that wasn't really the thing. And that's where we are with AI. AI, you want the meat and the bones. Again, an easy thing for people to understand are the visual effects that AI can do right now. And that's tangible and somebody can see. And seeing the advancements in that, and that's only scratching the surface of what AI is actually doing. You can actually, the big thing with AI at this moment, yes, it's an advanced technology that utilizes prompts to create something, to create whatever you need, no matter what it is. It's the same thing as your Google AI, your Google Home system, to your Siri device. That is the advancements in technology of AI at this moment. That is where it is. So when you give a prompt when you say, "Hey Siri," and you're giving Siri a prompt, it's treating it as if you're talking to somebody. So you're talking to Siri at that moment. And the advancements in that technology are natural speech, natural learning, because where we're getting to with AI, and this is where the scary part comes into play, is when you get to that singularity where AI is beginning to find that consciousness and find out what it wants. Because there's actually a movie, a TV show, Westworld. It was an old movie in the past. HBO actually took it and changed it into a TV series. And that TV series was talking about actually what AI is, because AI was beginning to search for its own consciousness. It's the same thing that we do in life when we're trying to search for our own center. And so AI at some point will get to that search for itself. Quantum computing is just unreal to think about because of what it can do. But AI right now at this moment, yeah, it's a tool. But if we're not going to be able to program and understand that tool when it hits that singularity point, then we're going to be stuck out of and just completely trapped out of what we were doing. Because right now we're losing jobs to AI. Even in the stock exchange, there are people using AI to figure out, based on the statistics and every little bit of data.
It will affect, yes, and it will affect the future of work, present day work. We have to absolutely be thinking about it, right? But I do think, here's what I'll tell you. Like, my son is an artist, actually. He's studying biomedical engineering. And I've been telling him that AI could be a good career for him. I mean, recently, Billy Joel, who's come out of retirement of 30 years with his song, Turn the Lights On, they shot a video now promoting him, but it's actually using AI. It's not Billy Joel, showing Billy Joel singing the song as a young Billy Joel, as a middle-aged Billy Joel, as a Billy Joel I think he's in his 70s now. And it was amazing because but it also could be ethical challenges in terms of, do you bring back Humphrey Bogart, or do you bring back a young Al Pacino? Do you bring back people that weren't the actors but use the AI and the imaging to make them appear as if they were in a movie? And to the extent, I think, look, for example, the last thing I'll say is I went to Disney World a few weeks ago, and one of the things I saw about Walt Disney was what a visionary he was, what a great entrepreneur. Kind of ended the day with the carousel of the future, talking about progress. But I did notice that it hasn't kept up with the technology as fast as the innovation and technology. And imagine if we could bring Walt Disney back to life. Imagine if we took all the writings and sayings of Walt Disney and had something in Disney World where you would talk to Walt Disney. And it would ask.
But along those same lines and everything, and this is the question I've got for both you and Jacoby, because even the cultural arts centers that I work at, we are exploring this notion that you're talking about and all along those lines. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jacoby, but there is a difference between AI and augmented reality, because kind of what being described by Steve, I think, is more augmented reality, because there is a mural that exists at Haytide that one of the images is Mr. Shepard, who is the founder of North Carolina Central University. And we've talked about having this notion of an image of Mr. Shepard coming out and telling why he founded that particular university, and maybe even talking about the Black Wall Street and a number of other things that were taking place during that time. But that would be more augmented reality than AI. Am I not correct in saying that? Or are they one of the same?
It's dependent upon how it's used. Okay. AI is the technology. So, for example, I put up this one AI tool that people can actually use. It's a free tool. You can just type in and create whatever you want. This Pika. There's another thing that utilizes some open AI, but it's its own thing. AI is open source at this moment. So you can create what you want out of these things just by a quick prompt. But this is possibly what Steve is talking about, where a wall itself comes to life and begins to talk. That's not augmented reality. Augmented reality is when you can utilize some type of visual effect, either be it via glasses, contacts, or even the headset. And in the area that you're in, it creates a 3D image that's surrounded. Or you can use the technology on TV where people would see Tupac on stage dancing and doing his songs during a show. Right now, Riot Games uses a form of augmented reality for a band that they virtually created in artwork, but they actually have people and artists writing the songs, and that's KDA or KD/DA.
But you tell me, I guess what I'm asking and
But
clarify for me and everything is, if you go and, because I've done this, I've even done some voiceover for it. If you go to any real estate agency, there is what are considered virtual tours and everything. So some people are thinking that a virtual tour is not necessarily the same as AI, but some people are thinking that AI and a virtual tour can be one and the same, because we were actually about doing a virtual tour.
AI can be the tool to create the augmented reality. AI is your hammer. The augmented reality is the wood box you put together. Or the augmented reality, virtual reality, movies, pictures, scripts, coding for a website, data for a stock you're investigating, the P&L summary for business. You can use AI for basically anything at this moment, because that's how advanced it is.
Jitovi, I'd like to ask you about augmented reality. Question number one, is it possible to create augmented reality with artificial intelligence, whereas, say, apartment of 10,000 square feet will become 30,000 square feet? Would that be possible?
Creating by making the apartment grow. If you were to have a set of glasses and you were to look at this apartment that you're speaking of, and then in those glasses you see it start to move and grow, that's augmented reality, because you still see everything around it.
No. Hey, Sasha, Donald Trump has already done that.
No, hold on.
Donald Trump has already made a 30,000 square foot apartment out of a 500
That's a
square foot
great
apartment.
defense for Donald Trump. Just to say that, yes, it was 10,000 before augmented reality. Now it became 30,000 square feet. There is nothing wrong with that at all.
Right. Well, I think Donald Trump lives in a world of augmented reality, but that's my opinion. Go on.
You could you could build a virtual mansion that, with your glasses, plus rooms where the furniture and the parts of the walls can move in and out. You could build something that would function as a much bigger building than the building you're actually in. And yeah,
And
we're
they
going to
actually,
see.
and they actually look quite,
with augmented reality, one of the cool things that you could do, even talking about that apartment complex, a construction worker could use AI and say, I need to increase the dimensions of this area of this home. And he could be looking directly at that home with those glasses on, or with whatever contacts, whatever the augmented reality is placed against. He could look at that home, and then he could see how much space he would need, the actual the distance between the next home, the land that he would have to clear out, and how he would build it, and the schematics of it. And you could use augmented reality in various ways, but AI in the background, and that's how he would create it based on the numbers that he plugged in. I'd like to create a ranch style home based out of this 2-story house, and figure a way to do it, and it would do it in his glasses. He could draw it on the piece of paper and then take those schematics, and he's going to town.
But the general trend in everything is that humans will, on an everyday basis, will no longer be the smartest person in whatever room they're in.
True.
And that we'll lose autonomy, and will be important largely as consumers, that will be consuming stuff that was created by human AI, humans and AIs working together, and everybody will have to use increasing technology to try to make a contribution, and there will be people who opt out. Like there'll be a zillion new forms of like Amish people who just can't deal and withdraw into communities where they're a little less tech heavy.
Well, we're already
It already exists in the chess
whole,
world. The top chess player in the world is a computer. So the thing is, why bother learning chess when no one can beat the bloody computers? So you already see the trend that the most intelligent being, at least in chess and Go and checkers and everything else, at least in games, is a computer. It's not people anymore. We're kind of second rate when it comes to crunching data and doing things routine.
There is
But
one
Nick, we've already got
game
people that-
stand alone when computer cannot defeat a human being every time. It is backgammon because of the element of dice
Just roll the dice.
predictability. There is still man can get around. For
They have a
Like, to
chance.
interrupt for
at
that, but
Yeah.
Nick, there have been people that have literally been doing what you just said. There are people that have been, and what Rick said. There have been people that have been, going under the radar or going kind of like checking out into society and definitely trying to not be as engaged because they are afraid of technology and all along those lines. But I just have a quick question for Jacoby, and if Rick wants to jump in and anybody else. But I know that one of your favorite topics that you talk about, and you've been talking about it now for multiple weeks, is this notion of the budget. So is there a way, since I know that you've been saying that everybody in school should be learning the budget and should have an idea of the budget, is there a way that AI can help us in this notion of the budget, whether it's teaching the budget or whether it's actually helping us create a balanced budget? So anybody want to tackle this question, since I know that that's something you bring up all the time, is the notion of the budget, Nick?
So actually, Sasha brought up a question earlier, which I completely agree with. Nobody should be forced to take AI classes. No one. It should be an elective, the same way I feel about financial literacy. There are particular things that should not be forced. The only reason I feel that way is because, just as Sasha said, not everybody's going to enjoy or be able to understand particular topics, and forcing them to do that forces them to fail. There are particular things that they have to know, reading, writing, counting, and stuff like that. But it should be an elective. And to answer your question, Mark, yes, AI could be used that, because it's the same thing as gamification can be used to understand financial literacy and the debt and the budget. It also can break down particular areas of the budget rather than saying, well, we're spending $200 here or 200 million here. Why are we spending? We can't do that. If we want a more educated society, AI and gamification and stuff like that can help expand and give a better understanding of what those budgetary items are, which is where we should be, because we use a lot of generalities and that becomes a fear tactic.
Just really quickly, because I brought this up earlier. I said you had the budget, but I brought it up earlier. Could AI have predicted some of these attacks? Because I mentioned before you came on 9/11, and I mentioned what happened in Moscow and Hamas and everything. So I think the military is already AI, but sometimes it's not being effective.
Yeah.
9/11 was a failure of the various agencies, the CIA and the FBI and local police agencies. They were all kind of like jealous and competitive with each other, and there was a ton of information available, like all these guys going to flight schools and saying, yeah, I want to learn how to fly like a 737. I don't want to learn how to land or take off. I just want to learn how to fly. And dozens of those guys, a local FBI agent said, these guys are up to no good and we need to see what they're up to. And because there was no coordination, she was ignored. And 9/11 happened. AI can help coordinate.
You've also ignored that with
they use
various gun shootings as well, because most gun shootings, there is somebody that has been warned about that.
When somebody's a dangerous, creepy lunatic, and everybody knows, but nobody's coordinated enough to do wellness checks and to go see what he's hoarding in his apartment. AI can help with that too, at a cheaper price than like cops doing the legwork.
Yeah, you could use predictive analysis, but when you talk about the budget, they could also use blockchain inside the budget. If you read this, see, first of all, no one reads the budget even. They don't read this, what I call a basic document. I'm going to put it again on LinkedIn. It's 188 pages. And what they have is a lot of discretionary spending. So they'll say, we're going to give
Hold on a
40 billion
second,
to the
Nick, Nick,
Department of
back up,
Commerce.
back up.
Hold
I
on,
gotta
hold on
call
a minute.
you. I gotta call you on something because
What?
you have
Hold on,
been
what?
the biggest person against crypto, and crypto is based on the blockchain. So you just said that they could use blockchain.
Yeah,
When I've heard you say
but
several times that
it's
you
an
are not a
illegal
fan
use.
of crypto,
It's an
which uses
illegal
the
use of the
blockchain.
blockchain. It's basically a stupid use of it. It's just like stupid artificial intelligence. But here's what you're saying. You told me the Haiti Center is funded by the federal government. Okay, here's what the
Partially,
budget doesn't show.
not exclusively.
But not exclusive, but they have some money. But Mark, if you go through this budget, which is 188 pages long, you'll find nothing about the Haiti Center getting any money. You could actually, by using AI or using technology and using a blockchain, is to show exactly where the money goes to and track it all to the Haiti Center. But right now, you say, hey, we get money from the federal government. Go into the budget and show me where you get the money. It doesn't have anything about it. It's all non-transparent. It's all opaque. It could be made known so everybody would know.
But you would have
give
to
you an
break
idea
down.
how-
But you would have to break down where all the things are, because I want to say part of our money,
So-
federal money is NEA, which is National Endowment. If I'm remembering.
Yeah,
correctly.
okay. It goes.
And definitely there is some other organizations like Humanities Council and others. So you could, but you would have to go in there.
You can actually
go
track
into
it. But
each
what I'm
category.
going to tell you, is this: the powers that be, the smart, the intellectuals, the intelligentsia, it doesn't want you to even know there's a budget out there and they're sucking money, and now they're sucking money out of Washington into their pockets. It could all be transparent using technology, but we don't have it. So I encourage people.
Nick, would you have that same transparency on private organizations? Because you heard me at the beginning say that a woman who is a congresswoman from North Carolina got money from APAC in order to go to this big conference, and then
Yes,
big donation and everything. And a lot of people don't know about this. I mean, the Independent just reported this, and it was a sizable portion of money. I think it was in the millions.
Yeah, it should be made known. It should be transparent. See, the real problem is the U.S. government is opaque. The budget is opaque. And how many people here in school read the budget? No, nobody read it. Now, why don't they want you to read the budget? Because they want to keep you dumb that this is where the rich people are sucking all the money out of. And by the way, this money goes to predominantly very wealthy people, not to the poor people. They'll give you nickels and dimes. Here's a dime, here's a nickel. But guess who sucks the big money out? It's the wealthy people. They don't want you to read the budget. They don't want you to do the blockchain and finding how Elon Musk sucks billions out of the U.S. government.
Leland Rose asked a very interesting question. He asked, more educated society, are students getting more or less educated? And he also asked, are you saying congressmen approve a budget without reading it first? Is that responsible?
The first question makes absolutely no sense. A more educated society is what we always want. It's asking, are students getting more or less educated? Students are getting educated. Don't you want them to get educated more? That's the point. In terms of the budget that you guys are talking about, that is exactly what I said in terms of the education and utilizing AI and stuff can be done and gamification, where it can be done that way. Forcing kids to do it in schools, that's really not a big thing. It should be something that we should be doing as wanting to be educated voters. But again, having a company come in and utilize AI or utilize some type of gamification would be great to break down the budget and actually give a chance for people to have clarity, which is true that we do want clarity on particular things. There's nothing wrong with clarity. And yes, the rich do end up getting more of the budget and so on and so forth. And that would be great clarity and a great something to basically investigate for everybody. But it is tough to go through the budget because we're not scholars of budgetary items. We don't even have the information to tie it into where talking about the Haiti and where it gets its money from. Well, okay, well that also the federal goes to the states, and the states go to the cities, and the cities go to the towns. And so you've got to be able to break it down even more than just saying, hey, this money just goes here. Why?
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I know Nick had said earlier, and I don't know if he was going to jump back on and everything, but he had mentioned this notion of the states and the local being responsible for these agencies, whether it's Hayti or whether it's a museum in DC, even the like the one in Baltimore or whatever, and everything, that they have to get their money from the state and the local and the private citizens. But to your point, a lot of times that money is funneled through the federal agencies and everything. So it's not like they're getting it without getting the federal money, because sometimes it's sent to the states from the federal level.
I have a question to everybody. If you will just a second, if you will take two men, let's see, middle class, or two poor men or two rich men, it doesn't matter, but two equally suited men, and one of them read the budget from beginning to the end, every line, and another one did not read the budget. What makes the difference from one who read it all to another one who didn't read it at all? What makes a difference?
Well, first off, I'd ask about the comprehension. You can read all day long. I'm in the education space, and I can read. I can tell you that people read all day long, but do they comprehend what they are reading? So you can read it all day long, but are you comprehending what you are reading?
That's another issue. That's another issue. Yeah.
I mean, there has to be more context around it, just because if it all depends on if person A is a stockbroker, and person B is we'll say is a biomedical engineer. One reads the budget, one doesn't. What's the difference? The only thing is one person read the budget, the other one didn't. So can you say one is more educated on the budget? Sure, because they read it, but did they understand it?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
But even if he read and he understood, what makes the difference?
One read the budget,
This
one
person
didn't.
who read and understood, he can go to Congress and say, hey, people, I read it, I understood it, this is a crap. You should not do that, you should change this and that. Is that possible at all? I don't know.
I mean, but Sasha, isn't part of it, if you read the budget, won't you have specific things that you are reading it for? So let's take the person that is rural and a farmer versus somebody that is urban. If I read the budget and I am a farmer, am I going to notice all the things that the urban folks are getting that I am not getting? Probably yes. And the same can be said the opposite. If I'm urban,
what can you do about it? Okay, is that injustice? And what that farmer can really do about it?
Well, I think I'll go after Rick, because Rick has something good.
All right. So there's you guys are talking about the products of AI as if they're true. And there's an increasing problem that won't go away called bot shit, which is AI generating BS.
Right.
And there's another term, which is hallucinations, when AI gets enough bad information that it is distributing garbage as if it's true. And then other AIs pick up this bad information and incorporate that into their database. So after a while, the BS overwhelms.
Hey, Rick, isn't that an old adage? Garbage in, garbage out. I mean, that's even been put out there in terms of writing and a number of other things. So,
just to touch on both. So with the garbage in, garbage out. I mean, that's very true. Honestly, that's why a lot of the AI at this moment goes to a very dark place, because it's grabbing the data online, and it goes to a very dark place at this moment because that's what it's grabbing. But to touch on what Sasha's saying, because I think I understand better what Sasha's talking about. And yes, I mean, there's going to be one understanding, but then also, the what can he do, I think, is where your question is. And that what can he do?
On. I will help you, Jitovi. There are two cases.
Mark, I've got to run. Thank you so much. Okay.
No problem.
I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Okay. Case number one, they both read the budget. Case number two, they both understood the budget. And what I'm trying to say, it makes no difference that both of them didn't read the budget. Both of them read the budget, and both of them understood the budget. It makes no difference whatsoever. That's my point.
So I think what you're getting at, and this is where the difference comes into play, and this is where our difference, I think, is on the understanding of what they can do. What they can do is the reason why there are particular people protesting at particular things, because people get tired. Because what Mark is trying to add in is like, hey, there's a farmer, and it's the same. It's very true. We become single issue voters and around the budget on things that we deal with, because we don't. It's hard for us. It's hard for me to understand because I'm not a farmer, so I don't understand clearly all the subsidies that the farmer gets and what they do for the farming situation. I don't understand that fully. So for me, that's not going to be top priority for me. And I think that's where Mark was going with his question. So in terms of what we can do, that's where the whole protests, going to Congress and doing things. Like when right now, the big thing is the abortion rights that are being taken away. That is a bill that's out there in many different areas. Florida just just took away rights from women. And there's a ban that many in the GOP and even Trump have talked about at that top level. Sure, there's budgetary items that they can talk about, but right now women are understanding that they're taking their rights away, and that's a higher priority. It's the same situation in a budget. When you start to see those things that affect you because it becomes a personal thing, that's why, for example, even taking some of the congressmen themselves, there are some Republican congressmen that have flipped and are okay with the transgender situation. Why? Because there's a transgender individual in their family. And once it becomes personal, then it becomes something that people begin to look at differently. And how
along those same lines, that even comes back to what I was saying with the woman and the congresswoman and everything, because there are some people, and I'm not saying because I know her, but I don't know her that well and everything, that she has kind of flipped her view. Because like I said, she wrote the about this unilateral ceasefire that she wanted, and she was signed that back in December. But then because of the money that she's gotten and everything from this major Israeli lobbying group, folks are wondering if that has not kind of colored her view and the reason that she went on this trip and everything.
Well, just to take that even further, I was listening to, who was it? Matter of fact, Mark Cuban. He was on an interview, I think it was yesterday. I forget who was interviewing, but he pointed this out. And the reason why he's more for Biden than he is for Trump is because if you take all policies and everything, forget all that. But if you take a look at the cabinets, in Biden's cabinet and Biden's hired individuals, in his vice presidency and even in his presidency, there hasn't really been much turnover. None whatsoever. Nobody's come out in Biden's cabinet, come out in Biden, who he's hired, and said, Biden is a bad person. I will not vote for Biden. In Trump's case, you have multiple turnovers. You have multiple people.
All of them are in jail anyway.
And then the only ones who haven't, there is a financial connection. So the ones who won't turn have a financial interest there. So yeah, just like you're talking about how that congresswoman got that money and flipped her concern. Well, if you notice, yeah, the ones that aren't being paid by Trump, yeah, they understand, hey, there's a problem here. But the ones that are paid, hey, he's cool.
We're all going to have a personalized AI assistant who more or less understands what we understand and will deliver information to us in a way that makes it more digestible. But at the same time, that AI is susceptible to being gamed by moneyed interest.
But and really quickly, because we're winding down and everything, it already exists. If you go to any phone app store, you will see that there are tons of AI companions, AI girlfriends, AI, a number of other things that you can literally get in the year 2024. But these are not advanced whatsoever, at least not advanced.
No, they're still crappy, but they'll get less crappy over time.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. At 1:00 we'll have financial show, Modern Investing, and we'll discuss the latest scam of Donald Trump, which is a company Did see? It's just absolutely. There are a lot of scams in the stock market, and I
Isn't it
remember
still tanking?
today. Yeah, it's tanking again. Yesterday it went up a
And,
little.
and it came out that that there are, of course, Russian connections to the money.
Of course, of course.
And we'll
Okay.
find out if his Bible scheme is tanking as well. But like you said, we'll come back at 1:00 to hear from Sasha Milan. And I don't know if Jim Eat will be joining us, but hopefully he will
Yeah,
be.
let's join us.
Okay, cool. So we'll be having that conversation around modern investment. It's always a great conversation. If you haven't been catching it, please do catch it because Sasha does a great job of leading that discussion. So I always greatly appreciate his good job and all along those lines. So right now, let's get on out of here and we'll have World Edition on tomorrow, but do stay tuned for Modern Investment at 1:00.
Thank you.